Hello fellow thrill seekers, welcome back to our channel. Today we're venturing into the paranormal playground of Reddit, where users from all walks of life share their spine-tingling ghost stories. From apparitions to unexplained encounters, get ready to be spooked and entertained in equal measure. Buckle up, prepare for a hair-raising journey through the best Reddit ghost stories out there. Now, let's dive into the spooky abyss of Reddit's ghostly whispers. The Woman in Blue by Jan879. I saw this spirit when I was in 4th grade. My 3 cousins had come over to our house for dinner. It was dark outside. Our dining room table sat next to some 4-foot 5-inch tall windows that looked out at the street in front of our house. I remember my cousin telling a joke to everyone at the table, and as I threw my head back to laugh, I rolled my eyes over to the window. Across the street from us, in a patch of gravel in front of my neighbour's yard, I saw a clear as day apparition of a woman. She had long blonde hair, she was wearing a blue dress, and she was holding a candle out in front of her with both hands. It seemed like a candle itself wasn't giving off any light. Instead, her whole form was radiating in a golden glow. I watched her glide along the ground for about 20 feet, and then she dissipated into thin air right in front of my eyes. It's now nearly 14 years later, and even though I was very young, I can still recall this memory like it was yesterday. I remember what I was wearing, I remember what we were eating for dinner, and I remember the joke that my cousin told me. I don't know if this woman was a lost spirit or some sort of angel, but to this day, she made me a believer. I had believed in ghosts prior to this, but I also didn't attribute every little bump to a ghost. I always tried to find the logical explanation to things, even when someone I knew would describe their paranormal experiences. I thought maybe there was something else making these shadows or noises and would take their experience with a grain of salt. But after having lived in a haunted house, I'm a lot more open to people's paranormal stories. I moved into one of the houses on my father's lot, just had a baby, and me and my husband moved in. I'd put a mirror with a metal hook that hung over the closet door, which faced the bed. Every time we opened the closet door, it made a loud screeching sound because the metal hook rubbed against the frame. About a week after moving in, it's the middle of the night and I'm asleep in the room by myself because my husband was working nights at the time. The baby was in a bassinet next to me and 2 chihuahuas at the foot of the bed on the floor. I hear the sound of the closet door opening and the screeching it makes wakes me up. I look at the door and see the dogs are at the foot of the bed, awake and staring at the door. Maybe they opened it by putting their little paw under it? It's rather hard to open it with the metal hook over the door. The wood is a little swollen. And add to that, there's carpet, but that's the logical conclusion to me, so I go back to sleep. This happens a few more times throughout the next few weeks. Around the 5th time this happened, I heard again the closet door open. I sit up and look at the dogs, which are still at the foot of the bed. They were never by the closet door any of the times this happened. Then I see the closet door slowly start to open by itself. The dogs go wild. They are barking ferociously at the closet door. My one dog, Bear, has his fur straight up and ears point back, barking away. My other dog, Jojo, starts whimpering and crying and runs under the bed. Oh hell no, this dog is scared of nothing. He would try to square up with St. Bernards and Great Danes, and he's crying and running under the bed. Their reaction was when I knew my place was haunted. Over the next few years we had a lot of experiences there. I hated it there, and I don't think the entity was a good one. We no longer live there, and I'm glad. The Breathing Incident by Pink Fluffy Ethan. I was lying in bed with my head propped up on 2 pillows, watching YouTube videos on my phone. It was around 2:30 a.m, and it was completely normal for me to be awake watching YouTube videos at the time. I was usually falling asleep at 4 or 5 a.m. and waking up past midday, or even later. It was school holidays when the first incident happened, which is why I could get away with waking up so late and staying up all night. Anyway, I'm trying to say that despite the very late time of night, I was certainly wide awake, not even tired, and this was normal for me. My bed was just as much a place to chill and watch stuff for me than it was a place to sleep. So there I was watching YouTube videos on my phone at 2:30 in the morning when suddenly I heard someone or something take a deep breath in. The sound of it alone was so loud and sounded so close to me that I was startled immediately, and I clutched my phone to my chest so it stopped producing light and fumbled for the volume button to turn the video down. Before just hitting the power button on my phone, the video played for a second more and then finally fell silent. During this time I was still hearing the deep breath in. Then there was a slight pause, and then, again, as loud as can be, a deep breath out. It was slightly raspy, almost like Darth Vader, but less robotic. Not machine-like at all, and even slower breaths too, but similar in the way that you could hear the wind of every breath. The deep breaths continued, and I looked at my bedroom windows and to the foot of my bed, my phone still clutched to my chest as I'm pretty much frozen in fear, simply due to how loud, slow and deep breaths these were. Each breath in and out lasted 2 to 3 full seconds each, and were as loud as a breath could be without actually being vocalised. It was as if whatever was making the breathing sounds was going with every breath out before making a small with their mouth with every suck in, but not gasps or vocalised noises, just breaths. My mind was racing as to what sort of animal could make these sounds, but where I live there are no big animals at all, so I reasoned maybe the vents of the air conditioner or heaters or whatever were making some weird sound. But no, there's no small animal or really any wild animal in the country with the lung capacity to take deep breaths this deep. Certainly not in suburbia where I live, definitely not inside my bedroom. The heating, cooling still works fine and silently to this day, over 6 years later, and besides there's no vents even close to my bed. All the while I was having these thoughts, trying to justify the noise, I was still listening to the breaths. So I kept staring at the foot of my bed where I thought the sound was coming from, but really the only reason I thought the sound was coming from the foot of my bed was due to the fact that behind it was the only spot in the bedroom I couldn't see. So my brain just immediately imagined someone crouching there. This was just because the breathing was so loud and so close that it was, still is, impossible to me that it wasn't coming from inside the room, from right next to me. I honestly think it sounded even closer to me than the foot of the bed. When trying to reenact it to tell friends, and when I recount this story to people, I couldn't and still cannot make breaths as loud and as deep, and I'm an adult male. Only something with a huge lung capacity could possibly, maybe a huge man. I imagine maybe a giant football player, but that's it. When you try to draw out a breath for a long time, they get quieter. If you try to breathe loud, your breaths get shorter. These breaths were both loud and long. So I stayed there frozen, phone still clutched to my chest, staring towards the foot of my bed, then to the closed curtains, then back to the foot of my bed. For a few moments I thought maybe someone might be pressing their face against my bedroom window, behind the curtains, and breathing loudly to scare me. But I ruled it out because it was simply too loud. The windows were shut and locked with curtains in front of them. That would have muffled the sound far, far too much. This was like breathing in my ear. With each possibility I ruled out while trying to justify what was going on, I just got more fearful of the noise. So I just lay there in my empty room, listening to these deep, ominous breaths. My eyes fixated on the foot of my bed, but realistically probably about 3 or 4 minutes, but it felt like 15 before it just stopped. The breathing didn't really fade away, it was just kind of stopped as quickly as it came, maybe got a tiny bit quieter for a brief moment before the sound went away entirely, vanished with one last breath out, and I was alone again. I lay there for probably another 10 minutes without exaggeration, with my heart pounding in my ears before I calmed down enough to have the nerve to turn my phone screen back on. Even then I just put it on my bedside table quietly and slowly, and then lay there all night. I know I sound like a pussy right now because it's just breathing, but it was honestly just that much of a whack experience. And then it happened again. Thank you for joining us on this bone-chilling journey through the realm of ghostly encounters. If you've been captivated by these eerie tales, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more hair-raising content. And before we go, did you hear it?